Queensland, Captain Jack Sparrow is back on course. And that injured hand of his, well, it's intact.
Welcome back, Johnny. How are you? How's the hand?
I have two.
You got two? You survived?
Yeah, I'm growing three.
All right, today I am joined by folks from across the world. Hello tomorrow to Australia and New Zealand. I always say that, even though obviously we're watching at any time of the day, but I always have to say that because I'm weak. I am joined by Hayden, who is on the channel The Law Patrol, and I believe you're a lawyer out of Australia.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And Ben, aka the Bearded Apostle, who is a cheeky fellow out of New Zealand. How are you doing?
Good.
I'm good, thank you.
All right, so I got together with Ben on Twitter and understand that you guys have been breaking down the whole, what I like to call the Johnny Depp, Amber Heard doggy saga. And
Yep.
There's actually a crime here, even though I don't know that here in the States we took it very seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Amber Heard does face potentially perjury actions because of her statements. And what she did was, in fact, a felony. You know, sometimes something may appear to be light on the law, like, oh my God, you're going to worry about that. But it can be a very serious thing when you're talking about smuggling animals into another country. Hayden, I think you were talking about you have a problem with this in Australia. Do you briefly explain?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a reason why Australia keeps very tight border security laws. We've managed to keep 37 separate diseases out of Australia that affect wildlife that are very important. I mean, the main ones for at the moment, foot and mouth, rabies. There's a few other pests, parasites, that sort of thing that's all very important to us. It's a very big thing for us because, for example, at the moment we're dealing with a potential foot and mouth incursion that's got the possibility to bring an $80 billion industry to its knees in the next few days to a week. So we take our biosecurity extraordinarily seriously, and it does seem like that hasn't been reflected overseas as to why we would do that. But there is a lot of money involved, and wherever there is a lot of money, there is always going to be strict laws.
Okay, so now just for the baseline of this story, so I have it right, you guys went into intense detail to find out all the players, to find out real liabilities and things like that. Like, could Johnny Depp be liable, even more so, and things like that. From what I understand, Amber Heard brought her dogs on the plane to Australia and hid them somehow from a customs agent or agents when they arrived, and brought them in the country. I think somebody said they were in there for a month or something. I'm confused by that.
Yeah, when they landed on the 21st of April, it wasn't until mid-May, so it's just shy of a month that the dogs were here in Australia without anyone knowing. And look, it is very serious because, yes, whether or not there was extra things for Johnny to be liable for, I mean, it did come down to whether or not he owned the plane that they flew in on. That basically, there was a possibility for a 10-year sentence a potential 10-year sentence for being the one to own the vehicle that allowed the smuggling to take place.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not chump change really, and that's a massive thing for him as well because, and this is also the main thing that I feel is why we're chasing Amber for the perjury charges is as soon as there is any as soon as there's any sentence that involves a potential jail sentence of more than 12 months, that affects the 404 visa. So that's the visa that Johnny, Amber, other actors would come into Australia on to be able to so that they could work basically and make movies and that sort of thing. This would basically give the Australian government an automatic reason to deny that visa, and they've never set foot back here.
In these pictures that you guys so gracefully collected, the plane landed and there is an agent, it appears, who is getting on the plane.
Okay, so based on the timeline that we have, the plane landed at 11:10 a.m. In our understanding is that the Border Patrol member was pretty much there to meet the plane at landing. He got on the plane, presumably to do a meet and greet. I know that it wasn't specifically to view their documents, to check their passport, that sort of thing, because that was done at a later stage.
Okay, so it was a friendly thing.
Yeah, because I mean, look, where they landed, it was specifically a VIP terminal. This isn't like they went to the regular area of Brisbane Airport and they, just got shoved through the back door or anything like that. It's a good 10, 15 minutes away from the actual airport where they landed and where they were able to go through.
Okay.
I'm not even sure that specifically he was Border Patrol or if he was a member of just the terminal services, because the terminal's run by a private company. So it could well just be that he was there to meet them on the tarmac, welcome them, say, here's the car, this is where you need to go. That's where you get to go to customs and that sort of thing. Now, if we can just zoom in on the two individuals in the center.
Okay.
So the individuals in the center are the two unknowns. I know for a fact that on the manifest there were 6 people that were supposed to fly, including Johnny and Amber, which I will say directly contradicts testimony that Amber had previously given. She said that there were more than 6 people on that plane, not according to the border or customs officials here in Australia. These two are the unknowns that we haven't been able to track down.
Now, is that 6 people, including the pilot?
No, so that's 6 passengers. Okay. So 9 people in total, including the pilot, the co-pilot, and a flight attendant. Okay. So on the manifest, there was Johnny and Amber, 2 other people that were supposed to fly, 2 people that weren't supposed to fly, and replaced 2 other people that had originally been listed. So of the 6, 2 of them had been swapped out for other people. So we're not sure, and we're trying to track down exactly who those 2 are. Presumably, at least one of them is Amber's replacement for Kate James, her assistant, who she let go.
Okay, but there were actually then 4 passengers total?
Depends whether or not we're including Johnny and Amber. So there's Johnny, Amber, 2 people that were supposed to be there, and 2 people that weren't supposed to be.
Okay, because I only see the picture of the 2. I didn't know.
We don't know who the other 2 are. So there was, on the manifest, there were 6. 2 of the people on the manifest did not fly. They were replaced by 2 people who did fly, but were not listed. And basically the people that those 2 are the ones that we're interested in, because we can pretty much pinpoint the exact moment where the dogs were removed from the plane. Now, there are varying reports, but amongst the media reports that we've got, and I am still trying to get actual details from the FOI request that I've put in. So that woman there, that's her carrying the bag there. That is the bag that we very much believe the dogs are carried in.
Oh.
That bag then is put into the back of that car, and as you can see, there's a security guy that actually has a look at that particular bag, ignores it, and the reason that we think that is because they would have classed that as carry-on luggage, so it's therefore not generally going to be scrutinized. It's not going to be opened. It's not going to be looked at. In order for that to have happened, though, there's a good chance that the animals would have had to have been sedated, which is a horrible thing to think. But either they were extraordinarily well trained, or they haven't made a sound the entire time that they've been around the Border Patrol or anyone else in the area.
One of the reasons why we think that this was the case is that we are reading the body language here to an extent, and it would be great to talk to someone like Spidey. Is that as a parent, the body language being displayed here by Mr. Judge?
Jerry Judge was upset.
He's upset with Amber, and she looks confronted here. And the pilot's here, and if he is confronting Amber about the dogs at this point, the pilot would hear that, and that would explain why the pilot requested an additional Border Patrol check. If he overheard this conversation, if he overheard Jerry Judge confronting Amber about the dogs and a border breach, he's actually at risk.
He has a responsibility.
Yeah, he has a legal responsibility to say, well, can you come and check? Is there any evidence of dogs? Because he hasn't seen them. He's just overheard a conversation.
So when did they check?
He might have requested that.
When did they check?
So that was about a half hour later. So that's part of the timeline. So from here, those dogs get placed in that car at about 11, 12 a.m. They then travel from the plane to the main Hawker Pacific terminal, which is where they meet with the 2 other Border Force professionals who go through the paperwork, help them fill out the IPC cards, the incoming passenger cards, to which is the part where we're looking at the original charge that Amber copped to, which was the falsifying document, because she listed, no, I've got nothing to declare.
Many of the other news reports state that the dogs were placed into the silver SUV and whisked away and into the ether, but we can prove that didn't happen. based on the two photos you see here, which are screen grabs from footage that we sourced off YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's CCTV, there's the footage from 9 News there of them leaving, and based on that footage, I can honestly say, Johnny at this point in time, he had very clearly been medicated. He was not thinking straight, particularly the way that he met with, the way that he engaged with the news reporter and that sort of thing on the way out. Like, don't get me wrong, he was still able to hold a conversation and that sort of thing, but it's very clear that
Oh
he was
yeah,
medicated for that flight.
he's in La La Land. Like, she says, "Oh, how's your hand?" and he says, "Oh, I've got 2 of them. In fact, I'm growing a 3rd."
Back, Johnny, how are
So-
you? How's the hand?
I have 2.
You got 2? You survived?
Yeah, I'm growing 3.
So I mean,
I mean, look, it could just be humour, but you, sort of, if you go and watch the footage, you can tell that he's
and
been
in the
medicated.
testimony in the Johnny Depp trial, the defamation trial, he speaks to being quite heavily medicated in this period to the point where he was concerned about potential addictions. So
No, in fairness, he had an
Yes.
issue anyway. But yes.
Yeah.
We know
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
But something that we want to speak to here, where previous reports say that the dogs were whisked away, we actually have a screen grab
They
here
weren't.
which shows the 2 key vehicles in this are the black SUV. Hang on. So the black SUV here, which we can see Amber Heard walking to as corresponding with this photo here. We can see that she's being escorted to a black SUV. Now, the fact that all these individuals are present in all these photos confirms that this is that black SUV. But just visible in this photo is the silver SUV.
Is the Mission
Yeah,
Patrol.
that is where the
Yeah.
dogs are at this point in time.
Yeah, so at this point, we're still looking around. At this point, it's still roughly 11:15, something along those lines. A few minutes might have passed.
The implication within the news articles is that the Australian border customs somehow were implicit in it, or that they were let through or given special treatment, hence they whisked them away in an unknown vehicle. No, that's not true, because we can see here in the first photo that the silver SUV is there in the presence of a border patrol officer, and we can see that it's leaving here in the second photo behind Johnny, and there's a 3rd car actually in the convoy. So it was there the whole time. Like, border patrol did everything they were meant to.
Okay, so in other words, at worst, they were duped.
Oh, they were 100% tricked.
Yes.
They were absolutely tricked.
Okay.
Because they used loopholes in the system, which is that there's a certain amount of honesty to your declaration. Do you have anything to declare? No. Okay, we won't check your carry-on luggage.
And unless they were doing something noticeably weird,
Yeah.
they're not going to go and look too deeply at it.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're VIPs on a private jet.
Exactly. It's the whole probable cause argument. Yeah, they're not really going to care. Now, so when they actually leave, so in that photo there where they're driving away, that's roughly 10, 12 minutes after landing. So at the very least, the dogs have been in the back of that car for 10 or 15 minutes at this stage. From there, they travel to the actual terminal where the Border Force officers do the passport identification. They're there from 11:30 right through till 11:45. So by this stage, those dogs have been in that bag in the back of that car for roughly half
That's
an hour.
in the
45
second
minutes.
photo. In the second photo, they're leaving the airport. So at this point here, the dogs have been in the back of that car for a little under an hour.
Yeah.
Either
So,
way,
I
the
mean,
important
look,
thing is, like, there is aspects of animal abuse, but the main thing here is that the Australian Border Patrol did everything they could, everything they're expected to do, and Amber Heard basically either coerced or bribed or whatever. She used other people basically as smuggling mules to carry out the actions on her behalf.
Yeah.
And to get her dogs into Australia. We believe she was confronted about this by Jury Judge. Johnny, at the time of the confrontation, really just doesn't even look like he has any idea what's going on. So I don't think he knew until afterwards. And there's actually, we have an interview that I haven't sent through yet because I'm still going through it frame by frame, where one of the security members that's in this video and was present at the house was given specific instructions by Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. Well, actually, he states Amber Heard, not to allow police in without a warrant after the dogs were discovered.
Okay, so the one main wrap-up, I think, is this. If Johnny Depp owns this plane, regardless of his condition, he could theoretically still be charged. Is that correct?
Theoretically. But thankfully, we've been able to look into that. We have tracked back through the tail number of the plane, which we were able to track down through a lot of images. But we were able to track it down. And basically, it's corroborated by the Border Force statements that it was a chartered plane. Originally, it was owned by Jim Carrey. And then it was sold on to what are they called?
Transexec.
Trans-executive private jets. Yeah, so they were it was a charter plane.
And that's why we went diving. We didn't go diving into this to burn or bury Amber. We went diving into this to see if there was any way that we could not help, but clear Johnny.
Perfect. And
well, not even necessarily that. I just wanted to put the information out there. I mean, I don't want to be biased on this. I mean, I have my preferences. Let's be fair. I think everybody does. But as I said, it's the way that I looked at this was I wanted to
know the truth.
If I was in the space of the Director of Public Prosecutions right now, how would I try this case? What information would I need? What would I be looking for? And that's why I've done Freedom of Information Act requests for various documents from the Department of Agriculture, from the Department of Public Prosecutions. Based on some information I've had in the last couple of days, I'm going to be putting in a couple of others from different areas. Because based on the statements that I've got from the Department of Agriculture, that's what sort of really triggered me off, because it was that having the air crew be the ones to say, look, we're requesting that Customs come out and inspect this plane. We've heard something, or we've had some other reason to want that. And then having two other guys go out there, one of them going through the plane, not seeing any sign of the dogs, not seeing like an unmade bed, not seeing or smelling anything to suggest that there were dogs there. So look, it's not a huge jump to say that potentially those poor dogs have been in that bag, whether it's been unzipped or whatnot, for a 9-hour flight in addition to the hour that they sat on the tarmac.
Seem to not know about them as well. Wow. Okay, so on that note, folks, you got this information. I am going to be putting a link to a much longer live stream where they break down every element of this in every direction, so you can deep dive. But I want to know from you, should Amber Heard see some time for doing this? I'm extremely concerned personally about the dogs on a flight to Australia. The whole idea of myself flying to Australia and I can walk around is daunting. But to be locked up in a manner to where no one can see, or to be drugged in such a manner, that really troubles me. So let me know what you think. What should happen out of all this? And Ben and Hayden, thank you so much.